Welcome back. You're still watching the AFIA Morning Show live from Enugu. Now, former President Muhammadu Buhari was given a state funeral in Daura, Katsina State yesterday. He was interred at 5:50 p.m. following the arrival of his body at the Umaru Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina. But many people have been asking, what does the Southeast do with this information? How does the Southeast feel? What are they saying right now in the region concerning what his death means for the rest of us? And by the rest of us, we mean this region, the Southeast region of Nigeria. To shed light on this conversation, we're joined now by Ozo Iboniku Ogazimora, Editor-in-Chief, SBS Great Interviews, former Commissioner for Information in Enugu State, and let's never forget, an attorney at law. Ozo, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Welcome, sir. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. So I think we would start from the very essence of this. What is the dynamic of the relationship between late former President Muhammadu Buhari and the rest of us? What do you see, what do you feel when you hear Buhari and the rest of us?
Well, I will tell you that it is mixed. If you talk about this region, it is mixed. And indeed, it is mixed for the whole of the country. There are reasons to view him in good light, and there are also reasons to view him in bad light. You take, for instance, in good light, many administrations proposed and budgeted for the second Niger bridge. They never did it. He did it. Many administrations provided for payment of gratuities to policemen who were Nigerian police officers and then served as Biafran police officers, but were retired. They were not paid. Many had died. He paid them, right? And then he intensified the work on the Onitsha Enugu Umuahia Port Harcourt Expressway and got many places rehabilitated. Then he did the international runway of the airport and a couple of other things. Then, for the bad light, there are so many reasons. I would say that he set up himself by being too emotional in his reaction to the agitation for Biafra. He was so emotional about it, he took it personal. And that must have been the reason why the measures taken by the military was beyond belief. Because we had a situation where during the Python dances, people were killed, a lot of people were killed, a lot of people were tied in the bush and left there. Some youths were caused to drown in mud. Youths were asked to slap themselves by soldiers. So many things happened. Some houses were brought down. And then it led to intensify the struggle. It was that struggle that brought in the so-called unknown government, and then all the other things that went with it, which now went out of hand, and every group of young men now started setting up camp in bushes, claiming to be Biafran liberators. Some of them were criminals. So all these things were fallout from his reaction. Other leaders who have greater sagacity would have handled it better, would have known firsthand that somebody saying, I want out of a relationship is not indeed a crime. But the person saying it and says he is non-violent, it's enough reason to let the person continue to say it. The Constitution of Nigeria makes the provision for people to express themselves. But then, the government of Buhari was intervening in every aspect, trying to stifle people, behaving as a military government. And that action really stained him. I can tell you that almost 70% of the youth in this part of the country do not think good of Buhari because of those actions. I'm not saying those young men were right in what they were doing, but I'm saying they are right in saying we want out. That's their view. They are in a relationship and they say we want out. It is when it is tested in international law that you know whether they have met what it takes. And for you to set up a new state, many of the agitators do not even know what is involved. And you know, the president knew that they did not know. So why take them too seriously to the extent of killing? There were other governments, that thing had been happening. It was the case, Masob was there. And the reaction, yes, it was also harsh, but not as such as this one. Because Buhari went all out to crush the young men. Some of them were even ignorant. They didn't even know anything about it. Many of them had not seen war.
Right.
Had not in any way encountered war. So it's expected that they will say certain things that are not actually realizable. But then your reaction at the moment showed, some people say, hatred for the people. I do not think it is. I think that it is his usual way of being too fixated and stubborn about whatever he believes.
Speaking about stubbornness, let's take it back in time to the military regime. What exactly did Buhari do that made our grandparents, great-grandparents, scowl at the idea of him becoming president in 2015? What really happened in the 1980s, in the earlier times, that made people worried about what he would do? And for people who supported him, what did he do that made them feel he would be the perfect match to fight against corruption in the country when he was elected?
Okay, very good question. You see, what frightened people about him was his ramrod nature. He was an inflexible man. If he makes up his mind for a thing, it is very difficult to change him. Remember, in the queue where Abibi removed him, Abibi made a statement that he was inflexible. He made it impossible for him to be talked to be convinced on anything. So, because of he belongs to what we call the ultra nationalist. So, because he thinks this is good for Nigeria, he does not consider the necessary human factor that you must bring in to evaluate any issue in a country. Because you are dealing with a country of great diversity. So you are going to bring in the various sentiments for you to reach a decision. That was the fluidity which other leaders exhibited, which he did not exhibit. You see, now for those who felt he was going to fight corruption, yes, he was known to be consistent and frugal. He wasn't known to be a spendthrift. And he was not known to have amassed wealth. So most people saw him as a bright person, untainted person, who was not likely to get himself into trying to grab oil well, grab this and grab that. No, he's not asking for license to operate telecom. He's not asking for license to run a petroleum company and the rest of them. So these were the things that got people, interested in him. But unfortunately, he didn't do it, but then he was lax. And people in his government did those things. And he was unable to do something. So in a way, you can say he disappointed everybody.
So, okay. 1984, the initiation of War Against Indiscipline,
Yeah.
WAI, which he championed with General Tunde Diagbo,
Yeah.
right? So, my question is, wasn't that the right call? Because we could actually see traces of those initiation in the present day Nigeria, right? Wasn't that the right call, to put us on the right path regarding the kind of people Nigerians are and with our diverse ethnicity and all that, right? So you had to get us lined and informed and obeying the laws, because apparently before then you could see Nigerians living anyhow. They do whatever they want to do. When it comes to maybe in a bank or whatever, instead of the queue, they scatter. This is what we are known for, right? Wasn't that the right call? And wasn't that a part of the reason why he was, people were championing his election to be the president of Nigeria, though he disappointed us. I'm talking about Bishop Kuka calling him a nice man, right? That we should forget about his leadership of 8 years, yes, which we know that he woefully failed. Like, we being whatever we're being in the country right now was part of what they engineered from the leadership of Buhari's tenure, right? So wasn't that a right call for Nigerians, to head us in that discipline era way?
Yeah, good. Yes, it was, and that is why that legacy has lived on, right? It was a good legacy they introduced, even though it got to an extent where people were beginning to think that that is he, Buhari, and his deputy, Diabo, were looking at Nigerians in Nigeria as living in army barracks, right? Yes, that thing they introduced is good, is still good. That is why the legacy is on. The monthly sanitation exercise they introduced, that was good. But to some extent, they carried it on in such a way that it was making the country look like it was run like a barracks, while it was not. It is the same thing. It relates to the same thing I said, that ordinarily you can't govern a nation of multi-ethnicity and then expect to govern them on one principle. It is not possible, because it is not the time the typical Kano man rises that is the same time that the typical Enugu man will rise. So those things had to be factored in. But then with something like that, yes, people were impressed by that, because it brought a small bit of order in the society then. But it cannot be just because of that. As I told you, there were other things. And even his colleagues were saying that he was rather intransigent. He wasn't moved. As a leader, political leader, you have to be moved.
So you're saying that the President Buhari, ex-President Buhari that we all experienced, didn't have empathy
No.
as a leader?
No. I won't say he didn't have empathy. He may have it. Indeed, he has. I have personally encountered him.
Tell us about that personal encounter too.
Yes, I'll talk about it. So he is. What I'm just saying is that that his military background tells a lot in his character. He's unable to lead the double life, which other retired generals did very beautifully. Like Obasanjo, who was also in the army, who attained equivalent rank, or indeed a higher rank. But Obasanjo was able to play a lot of politics, was able to please this, displease this, please this, displease this, and moved on. But in his own case, as a person, let me give you an example of a personal encounter. Where I went to Kaduna, I was going to interview him, and unfortunately, the person who arranged it did not actually get to him. So I got to his house with my cameraman, and he was surprised. And when we explained our mission, he took us in, discussed with us, and said, well, I just want you to relax. We're not going to have an interview because nobody told me. But I want you to come in, to relax. When you're ready, you go. So, but I had encounters with other leaders in similar circumstances, and they didn't even let you pass the gate. But we came from Lagos, And he saw that, it would be great disappointment coming to his house from Lagos, and we were unable to see him at all. It was going to be a mess. But he took us in, we took photographs, and he said no interview because it wasn't arranged. And we went back. It was a very beautiful encounter. Then, during Zeke's burial, I also encountered him. And I tried to interview him. By the way, the Buhari you may know, he's a very, very cheerful person. Very humorous.
Yeah, we see him throwing
out extremely humorous man. Yeah. So when I encountered him, he said, this short man, have you come again? And then we bantered. I wanted to interview him. He said, no, we are anything. If you want to ask me any question, ask me about Zeke's burial. No other thing. That time he was chairman of PTF, doing all the roads. So I wanted to go into that. He said, look at this young man. So you want me to begin to talk about the roads when I don't have the papers? You want me to remember all these your roads? He made attempts at pronouncing certain roads in the southeast. And I was satisfied. And I saw somebody at personal level who was humane. But there he stopped. Once he comes official, I also see him as a person who is highly emotional, because the way he reacted to opposition was virtually deadly. He didn't broke opposition at all.
And what counts as opposition? What counts as opposition in Buhari's life?
What
counts as opposition?
The oppositions he had?
Opposition. Does Biafra count as opposition?
Yes, that's the major opposition.
Let's put the opposition in perspective. When you say he took an emotional turn to opposition.
Yeah, the way he reacted to it showed certain things. One, he believed certain enemies were sponsoring them. And that is the reason he was too punitive. Secondly, he infuses his personal experience during the war, which now embittered him. If you look at the way he talked about that when he had an interview, he was talking about children who were not even born when 2 million people were killed, that he marched from Degema to whatever, and all that. And he was saying it with every bitterness.
I think that was in the interview in 10th of June 2021.
Yes, he was saying it with every bitterness. And when the interviewer was trying to show him a clip on how his soldiers brutalized the protesters, and he said no, he didn't want to watch it. So he didn't bring any humor into it. So he got too serious about it. Ordinarily, as a political leader, you have to infuse humanity in everything you do. If you don't do it, remember you are dealing with people who may not have had close encounter with you, a soldier, with you, a Fulani man, with you, a northerner.
Before you planned to interview the former president, I'm very sure that you did your research. Yeah. You researched into his life and times.
Yes. Yes.
Now the man is dead, so it's impossible to start trying to infuse humanity into him, because one would say in spiritual terms, his soul is no longer here. What was he like during the military era? Through your research, what did you find out about him during the military era? Why did he possibly have such an emotional response to some of those imageries?
Okay, you see, during the military era, Buhari had two images among journalists in Lagos. First of all, when he was overthrown, the general attitude among journalists was good riddance to bad rubbish. Remember, he jailed two journalists, Nduke Rabo and Tunde Thompson. He put them to jail on decree number 4. Then he executed people on a retroactive law, a law that was made after the offense was committed, and he executed them. So, and then a lot of other things. And then for the Southwest, there was a search conducted in the home of impromptu search conducted in the home of Chief Awolowo, and it angered the West. So that was one. Then midway towards 8990, 91, people had now started moving away from IBB and now wanted to get his views. By then, people became sympathetic to him. Remember, he was in detention up to 1988. And people were now sympathetic. And those who had the chance to penetrate him discovered he was usually forthright. He would speak straight, no rigmarole, no politics. Such impressed most journalists. And gradually he was building himself. Then when he was head of PTF, PTF did very well because PTF remedied a lot of roads across the country. And people were impressed. But he also knew his track. He never once wanted to make any comment about the government. He refrained from saying anything about the government, knowing his limit, knowing that being a military government, which he had bones to crack with, he was not going to be careless. Otherwise, they were going to undo him. So he was careful. So our impression of him later was that this was a straightforward man who can rule the country. And indeed, that was the mindset of people in 2015. I'm not saying the election that brought him was the best, but he had a lot of votes. And people up north, particularly northwest and northeast, believed seriously in him because he appeared to them to be the Messiah, the person who was not a politician, who was not into deceit, who was not into the demagoguery, trying to impress the crowd, saying a lot of things, the ones he could do and the ones he couldn't do. But they understood him that way. And that was why they were prepared to fight for him. You remember after his election, somebody said if he won, he was going to trek from Lagos to, is it Abuja or Kaduna? And the person did it, even though he later started having limb problems. I don't know why, whether he's still there. He did it. These were the emotive ways people reacted to him. People had a lot of hope on him. But unfortunately, I think the system overwhelmed him.
But when you talk about the system overwhelming him, right? Talking about that election and he attaining that position at that point in time, yes. But he also brought him a moniker or a sobriquet, Baba Go Slow. You know, regarding what he went through as a military president of Nigeria and the coup and the build-up, you know, to being a civilian president, one would think that, you know, attaining this position, things are going to change because that was Nigerians' mindset at that point in time, that things are about to change. Definitely, Mr. Integrity is here and all that. Well, a couple of months, we were behaving themselves, but sitting down 6 months, no cabinet, right? What would you make out of Buhari's 8 years leadership in Nigeria, knowing fully well that people were expectant of, oh, finally the Messiah is here, but we all know how the story ended, which even gave him the moniker or sobriquet, Baba Go Slow.
Yeah. You know, that issue of Baba Go Slow, you know, Sana Abacha had the same moniker, Baba Go Slow. But let me tell you this. You see, there is something Nigerians will take a very long time to learn. That is to understand that age can be a factor in the performance of any man. For somebody who is 70, 80, you don't expect him to perform the way he performed in the 40s. When Buhari overthrew Shagari, Buhari was barely 41. Very young man. So now he became president at, I think, 71 or 73. Now, you see, one, he was bound to wake up late. He was bound to be slow in reaction to development. He was not supposed to stay too long at meetings. He was not going to take in absorb a lot of news, particularly bad news. So he was likely to be more short-tempered. So his reaction is likely to be more confused. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm only saying that Nigerians ought to know that it is time we start electing presidents who are young.
But we just made the same mistake.
Sorry?
We just made the same mistake.
Yeah, we made the same mistake, or rather the mistake happened on us. Because in reality, if I understand what you are referring to, we didn't elect the guy there. You know that? So now, in that case, he allowed certain things to overwhelm him. This 8 years revealed a part of Buhari we didn't know. We didn't know that Buhari was quite clannish or highly tribalistic. Right? We didn't know. It all came out. First of all...
But why is it coming out now? We can actually trace this back to the Nigerian Civil War. As you said, he played a vital, pivotal role, you know.
Yeah,
if you're connecting that, well, yes, they say it's because of the unity of Nigeria.
But Ogazimora is saying something very pertinent now about the tribalistic nature that was revealed. So, judging by what you said about the Civil War, maybe you can walk us through what you mean.
Can you connect
the revelations? Connect that tribalistic tone for us.
Okay, you see, you look at his appointments. Look at the people who ran his government. Ismaila Funtua. You remember him?
Yeah.
He died during the COVID.
Yeah.
And then the others, his former chief of staff, also 80-something years, indeed older than Buhari. Now, these were people who were not exactly qualified to do that job. Not that they didn't have paper qualification, but the age was too much for them to do that job. For a president who is about 70-something or 80, you should have appointed a 40-year-old man as chief of staff. But in this case, he chose a man older than him. And then the other people around him were all his Katsina people. It was in the course of that regime that people now realized that this man, Ismaila Funtua, actually disclosed that when Buhari was removed from government, Ismaila Funtua owned a publishing company, he owned a construction company. He said he brought Buhari's name in as a director and was paying him salary, right? So now becoming a president, he was now paying him off. And then you look at the other appointments, people close to him. Then you now look at his attention to certain parts of the country. And then the policies. You take, for instance, he extended the railway line to Niger Republic. But he didn't find it necessary to bring any railway line to the entire southeast, or rather the entire old eastern region. The second Niger bridge he built, yeah, commendable, but that bridge ought to have a railway line. It was in the design, but it was never included, right? Then when you talk about what he did in the Civil War, let me tell you, in reality, Buhari was quite a junior officer in the Civil War. When the war started, Buhari was a captain. He was just a captain. Yes, he was accused of certain things, and the records are there, because during the Abagana incident, you know, if you read that report, when the convoy came, the ambush party allowed the 4 small jeeps to pass. Buhari and Yaradua were in those jeeps. So they were in the party that got into Onitsha. And remember, in Onitsha, in the Apostolic Church, there were refugees, about 300. The church reported it, and all of them were killed. Nobody was saying it was Buhari, but he was there. So that was that. That was one of the reasons why we think that he was doing so many things with bitterness. It wasn't necessary to do such things. But then I won't really hold him responsible for much in the war, because he was a junior officer. It wasn't really a senior officer. It was even at Amobia in 1969 that he became a brigade major. And then in 1970 he became a lieutenant colonel and the rest of them. So I do not hold him much in that war. He was a small fry.
Right.
Well, if you're connecting the tribalism, as you stated, and such unpresidential statement he made during his interview, calling the Igbo race, a dots in a circle, and also connecting the October 2020 NSAS movement that led to a couple of individuals, youths dying. Can you walk us through these events that happened? Him, the utterances, and he was the president of Nigeria when October 2020 NSAS happened.
Yes. You see, that when I started, I told you that Buhari got emotive most of the times. If he got angry, he said things that were unpresidential. He didn't really, sometimes maybe he needed to be pinching himself.
Even during a campaign, yesteryears though, they said allegedly that a statement he made led to the killing of a core member.
Yeah.
In the north.
Yes. You see, he wasn't really a politician, or rather he didn't want to learn the game, the rope. Because in politics, the first thing you learn is diplomacy. He didn't learn it at all. And that was why he was speaking straight, showing his anger, showing his feeling, showing his hatred for certain persons. And then he fell a victim of that same mentality of collective blame. So because some youths were disturbing, protesting, you now condemn the entire ethnic group, and now you refer them to a dot. And it was from there that the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau took the cue about Biafran rats. And then some others started making some comments, like Attorney General, who talked about spare parts, comparing them with the cattle headers who are destroying things. So he didn't know the weight of his comment. He thought he was free. But he didn't know that any president, any governor cannot speak at a drop of the hat. If you speak that way, you damage a lot of things. These were the points he missed. And it all comes down to him not being able to control his emotions when he got angry. But as I said, at a personal level, he's quite a humorous guy.
All right, we'll go on a quick break now, and when we come back, we're going to continue to delve into this. But we just received this breaking story. We're still yet to confirm it. That says that the Ipa market in Nsukka, the Ipa commodity market in Nsukka, is currently on fire. A section of the Ipa commodity market in Nsukka is currently on fire. Now, you will recall that our correspondent Elijah Akuma once paid a visit there to bring us insights on what really happens there, why people tend to patronize traders there. Currently, the traders are calling on the Enugu State Fire Service to swiftly respond to this fire outbreak. We don't know what led to the fire or if there have been any casualties, but it's important for the State Fire Service to step in and find out how the fire can be quenched at the commodity market in Nsukka. The morning show returns in just seconds. Stay tuned. Watching the AFIA morning show, and of course, Ozo Iboniku Ogazemora is still here. This is just a quick reminder of what we said right before the break. There's a current fire outbreak at the market in Nsukka. It's important for the firefighters to swiftly weigh in and try to resolve that issue there, try to quench the fire before lives are lost or more commodities are destroyed. We're still discussing the Buhari and the rest of us situation, but now there's another issue that is burning on social media also. And that concerns the fact that a lot of, people believe that there was some kind of clone that entered into the presidential office in 2017. And that clone they refer to as the Jubril of Sudan. And while it appears as if people don't want to give credit to it, it looks like it's just mere gossip or a rumor. It appears to be gathering significant traction. What's your stand on the issue of Buhari versus Jubril of Sudan?
Okay. To be frank with you, right from the start, I knew there was not going to be there was not any Jubril, right? Because, you know, you talk about the president of a country, there are some protocols for you to act as the president in the Committee of Nations.
What year did you have that personal interaction with Buhari?
The first one was 94, the second one was 96,
All right,
during his sixth burial. So now, by the way, having a double is common among leaders. At least Joseph Stalin of Soviet Union was known to have had more than 60 doubles. People who were attending functions pretending to be him. And they all went through. In the case of Buhari, the assumption was that this person has stepped in, like he had died. Meaning that certain people were desperate to have him, to have control of the government. So, purporting that even if he died, they could put somebody there so that they would continue in government. But then, it couldn't have been true. There are protocols, there are codes for you to gain access. That is bedroom in Aso Rock. These are places entered with codes. Maybe they reconfigured for the double to be entering, or maybe he wasn't even living in Aso Rock, assuming there was a clone. But then, I see the whole thing as a propaganda warfare. By the way, what is propaganda? Propaganda means supplanting, removing that which is embedded in you and planting that which is favorable to me in your head, right? And in doing that, causing you great unsettlement. So Buhari was seriously unsettled by that, because the outreach of the Radio Biafra International was so much that even abroad, people were asking Buhari, are you rare? And he was making efforts to say, it's me, I'm rare. That was the aim. Unsettle him, caused him a lot of discomfiture, perhaps as a way of punishment, perhaps as a way of ridiculing him, perhaps as a way of ridiculing Nigeria, which, by propaganda, the organization, IPOB, wanted to disorganize or wanted the world to see as being not properly set. So, in a way, it achieved its propaganda purpose, because at a certain stage, certain things caused people to begin to think, maybe this is true. By the way, this Buhari we knew that was stiff, strict, who was not going to allow these frivolities, people are accumulating wealth, he's now allowing it. It is possible this is a clone. No? You see it. So, in a way, that thing worked. But it was like a payback. His harshness against young men, not necessarily IPOB. There were a lot of young men we know who disappeared, who were not members of IPOB during those invasions of Python dance and the rest of them. And to punish him, I think IPOB had to do that. But thinking that it was rare, no, I did not think it was rare.
Okay, that brings us to Nnamdi Kanu, because we are towing that line now. So let's try to reconcile his approach regarding the 2021 rendition from Kenya, how would you reconcile his actions all through those times, right? And also the Igbo bigwigs pleading for clemency, political resolution, which he was like, no. There's even a favor that we brought him here that could have been eliminated abroad, that he should go face the law, that he should go and defend himself in court, in the law court. His action, was it him being neutral, or is somewhat charged from ethnicity or political lens?
Okay.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Excuse me. You see, his actions, you remember what I said earlier on. Buhari actually thought that his opponents were sponsoring IPOB.
Who were the opponents?
It could be anybody. Indeed, at this stage, they were accusing France, right? And they were accusing certain countries. Then, when you look at certain information Nnamdi Kanu released, you know that Nnamdi Kanu had contact or access to persons who had great intelligence capacity. Look at, he predicted that a force that was going to be deadlier than Boko Haram was going to arise. Herdsmen came and was classified the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. He said, no, that was not it. That there were going to be other deadly organizations, indeed deadlier than Boko Haram, deadlier than herdsmen. Then the bandits came. He said a lot of other things. They talked about Tinubu going to be president. He said a lot of things. So it was, some things would make Buhari to think somebody was sponsoring them. Then in Kenya, because he felt that certain big persons or organizations or countries are in it, he knew that killing the man in Kenya was going to have a greater repercussion. Because perhaps by now we'll be in a civil war. Because who are the people who fight civil war? These are people between the ages of 15 and 40 or 45. And these are the people, the support base of IPOB. So, if you just kill him like that, and not factoring what may come out, how it is going to be interpreted, it is going to be dangerous. And yes, people are asking that there should be political solution. Yes, there should be political solution. Because indeed, in other cases, they have been political solution. You have a lot of Boko Haram who were captured. They were rehabilitated and sent into the society. There is even a rumor that some of them are sent into the army. We have Sunday Igboho, who was doing exactly the same thing Nnamdi Kanu was doing. He has been cleared. He's moving around. He has moved back to his family in Germany. So why is the case of Nnamdi Kanu this so strict? They want to apply the full law.
That is the question. Let me come in there because we're running out of time at this point, and I just have to ask you this question. You interacted with Buhari personally in those years. Now, judging by who you saw and the assertion about him being a clone, do you buy that? Do you believe that this person you saw in the 1980s is different from who actually finished ruling Nigeria at the time?
No, he wasn't different. It wasn't different.
So you don't think that it was a double or a clone?
No, if he was a double, there was a double. I didn't see the double in the presentation of Buhari, because, of course, I didn't see him naked. But then, it has always been Buhari. That is the truth.
Right.
But as I told you, it was propaganda program, and it worked.
All right, we're already out of time. Thank you so much also for joining.
Thank you very much.
For the history class. Yes.